Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. So what am I doing today? Today I'm having a really difficult time conveying what I'm trying to do with this video, but basically what it is I'm going to be reacting to new book releases to the market, and I'm going to be asking myself, if I had the opportunity to pick this book up tomorrow to read it, will I read it? And I think that that's really telling. So if I had this book in my hand, would I read it this week, or would I just put it off, or would it sit in my collection? Now, we don't actually know how the relationship between me and the book will actually play out, but I can at least tell you whether I'm interested in the book, whether I'm not interested in the book, whether I'm absolutely not interested in the book. Like, ugh, get away from me. I don't really feel that way about the books I've chosen, except for maybe one. We'll get to that in a minute. But this idea really kind of spawned from beauty YouTube. Beauty YouTubers keep up with new releases in the beauty market. There are so many new releases to the beauty market that I've seen creators put out a video a week about new makeup releases, and they react to the market, and you could put up a video like that once a week for years because there's so much going on in the beauty world. And I was thinking, why did the beauty YouTubers get to have all the fun? So I wanted to bring it over to my channel, and I wanted it to be more of something like, is that something I'm interested in? I recognize a name, I've read something from that author before, I know something about this author or this book is getting a lot of hype, but then I have to ask myself, will I read that? Will I actually pick it up and read it? Or if given the opportunity, would I read it this weekend? You know, if I had some time. And I think it's really telling if the answer is no. And we can get into that, you know, the reasons why. And then I think it's also really telling if the answer is yes. So this is not a one-sided conversation. I want to know if these books have made it to your radar. And if this is the first time it's come onto your radar, would you read it? Would you pick it up tomorrow if given the chance? How soon would you pick it up? In hypothetical terms, in the way that you know yourself and the way that you can read yourself. I'm telling you, it would have to take quite a bit for me to pick up a book tomorrow, because I'm reading things and I'm enjoying what I'm reading. So it has to be a pretty darn special book for me to want to pick it up soon. The first book, actually the first two books I'm going to be talking about, came out in April. And so this first book is a translated novel from the Italian, and it is Antonio Scurati's M, Son of the Century. So this is the first installment of a tetralogy. So we got 3 more of these. And this is actually surprising because it's an 839-page book. This has already been a bestseller, I believe, in Italy, or at least overseas, and so we're finally seeing it in the English language, and it's finally hitting our market. This is going to be the story of Mussolini, and it's going to be we're going to be in Italy following Mussolini at the beginning, or no, rather at the end of World War I. That's where we're starting. And there is a quote that I thought was really interesting from a New York Times article, and it says, so I found the quote. It says, in collective memory, Italy always came out as the lesser evil with respect to Nazi Germany. Ben Gait said, because of that, Italians were able to say, well, we're not so bad. We weren't the architects of the Holocaust. I think Scurati is actually going to be shedding some light on what fascism was like in Italy. And I think it might be a little bit more brutal than what is in collective memory, at least according to this New York Times article, which I will leave linked down below. What really piqued my interest about this is because I really like weird historical fiction novels. I'm really realizing that about myself more and more. And so I think that what Scurati might be doing with Mussolini is what Mantel did with Thomas Cromwell in the Thomas Cromwell series, the Wolf Hall, Bring Up the Bodies, and The Mirror and the Light. I think that Antonio Scurati could be trying to do the very same thing, reshape the way that our collective consciousness remembers Mussolini. And since I'm not super familiar with the figure of Mussolini, just like I wasn't super familiar with the figure of Cromwell, to me, Hilary Mantel built Cromwell for me as a person, me, Shelley. And for me, Antonio Scurati could build Mussolini for me. And this could be like a really interesting journey, especially if it's well done, well researched, and Steve Donahue said it was amazing. I mean, he said it was one of the 2 books this year, the other book being Young Mungo. If you don't know who Steve Donahue is, he's a book critic here on YouTube. I will leave his channel linked down below. But he said that there are only 2 books this year that gave him that lightning, alive, vibrant, eyes-locking feeling with a book where it's just you in the book and everything else falls away. He said that he's only felt that twice so far this year. The first one was with Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart, and the second one is M, Son of the Century by Antonio Scurati. So that is a glowing endorsement from Steve Donahue, and it got me really excited about wanting to read the book. Now, would I pick it up tomorrow? Probably not, because of its length. I would not pick it up because of its length, but it is one that I would love to have on my shelves so that I could pick it up whenever I made the time. The other book that I missed that came out in April is Jennifer Egan's The Candy House, which piqued my interest or stood out to me in the sea of new releases because her book, I think it was her first book, A Visit from the Goon Squad, the one that she wrote back in 2010, that won the Pulitzer, and the Pulitzer has been on my mind. Well, Pulitzer Prize-winning novels have been on my mind because the Pulitzer is going to be announced for 2022 on May 9th, I believe. And so A Visit from the Goon Squad kind of checks up one of my own personal reading boxes in that it has won a major award, which always delights me in some way. So The Candy House by Jennifer Egan just reminded me that I didn't read A Visit from the Goon Squad, and now I do want to read A Visit from the Goon Squad. So as far as The Candy House goes, no, I will not be reading that, but it has reminded me of a book that I would like to pick up, or at least keep my eyes peeled for in a used bookstore and buy it and sort of make time for it then. Oh, so Jennifer Egan, she was born in Chicago, raised in San Francisco, which is approximating the area that I was raised in as well. And The Candy House is a sequel to A Visit from the Goon Squad, so I definitely want to get to A Visit to the Goon Squad first. If you all have read her, Jennifer Egan, will you let me know how it went between you and her? I'd be really, really interested to know. Okay, so we're moving from April into May, and the first book that immediately caught my eye is because this author, I just finished a book by her, and that is You Have a Friend in 10A Stories, and this is a short story collection by Maggie Shipstead. Now Maggie Shipstead's having a moment because of her book Great Circle, which was shortlisted by the Booker in 2021, and then it was longlisted and shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2022. So Great Circle is definitely having a moment, and I think Maggie Shipstead is also having a moment. Her short story collection is very highly reviewed. It receives star reviews from Booklist, Publishers Weekly, and Library Journal, which is wonderful. And so by all accounts, I should want to read it, but I don't really read short stories. And then I also asked myself, did Great Circle, her novel that I just finished, and I did find that book very compulsively readable. I thought it had a very fantastic momentum that made me want to keep going with it. But I asked myself, did the book itself lend itself to short stories? And my answer was no. And that is not the experience that I had with other authors. For example, Jeffery Eugenides, his book Middlesex. That Middlesex was originally, the basis of that book was short stories that Eugenides wrote and developed for the New Yorker. And it says it right in the beginning that certain of the sections in Middlesex started off as a short story. And so I could really see myself I could see myself enjoying a short story collection by Jeffery Eugenides, which he came out with actually not that long ago, versus Maggie Shipstead. I'm just there's nothing about this book that is calling my name except for the fact that I know and have read a book by the author. So yeah, I won't be reading this. Okay, the next book that caught my eye is Companion Piece by the Ali Smith. So Ali Smith has been honored by the Booker several times, but she has never won. And I think she's most noted for her seasonal quartet, which was a lot of people said was very, very contemporary. I know that Ali Smith also has like a very distinct and lyrical and playful writing style. So when I saw that she was coming out with a new book that's coming out in May, I was like, maybe this is my opportunity to finally read Allie Smith and finally introduce myself to her on the page. But then I remembered, rather than buying a book that's newly released and still needs to be reviewed by all of you all on BookTube, I own an Allie Smith book that I could pick up right now and read, and that is Hotel World by Allie Smith. So, as much as I really want to get to know Allie Smith instead of buying another one of her books, I will just stick with the one that I have. And so, no, I'm not going to read Companion Piece, at least not until I've read Hotel World. At least that's the plan so far. So sometimes I recognize names and I'm like, oh, I know that author, or I have her on my shelf, or I just read something by that author and they have a new book coming out. That's exciting. Or, you know, something like that. And then sometimes the total opposite happens. I read the description of a book and I'm like, wow, was this book written for me? And that's how I felt about this next book. And then I realized that it is the second installment in a series, and I was like, maybe I can be a series reader and I'll read this whole series and I'll be one of those people that anticipates her next book and I can't wait for it, and I have this like deep relationship with this author. Yeah, and I feel like everything about this book is written for me, and I'm wondering, why do I not know this author? She's highly reviewed, she's been around for a little while, she's been honored and has received awards. So yes, the book that I am talking about finally is Either Or by Elif Batuman. Elif Batuman? Okay, and her first book in this series is called The Idiot. And so this is a fictional series, but let me read you the description. So it is, this is it. During her sophomore year at Harvard, Selen's quest for self-knowledge leads to certain conclusions about the university's importance of partying, alcohol, and sex, and is determined to participate no matter the cost. This is the follow-up to The Idiot. So it is set on a college campus about college things. It is coming of age story. And I was like, yes, I love that kind of thing. And then it says it's also like autobiographical fiction. And weirdly, I sometimes think that autobiographical fiction can feel and read very honestly. And I felt that way most poignantly about A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I thought that since a lot of the scenes and interactions were shaped around Betty Smith's real life. For example, Betty Smith's real father was an alcoholic, but she had a very loving and complicated relationship with her father, and that is a very similar relationship to Francie, I always forget, the main character's relationship to her father in the book. And I thought it was written and explored so well that it made sense to me that it was semi-autobiographical when I looked it up afterwards. So semi-autobiographical books don't put me off. They actually kind of encourage me because I feel like I might be getting more of an authentic experience? No, that's not right. I think that I might be getting something that reads more honestly, something that reads more sincerely than novels that may just be made up. So I'm not put off by the term autobiographical or semi-autobiographical. I actually am encouraged by that term. I just don't know anything about Elif Batuman, and I don't know anybody who's read The Idiot or reviewed it, her first book in this series. So I'm gonna have to do my homework. I might download a sample of this on my Kindle. I won't be reading this right away. Will I read it tomorrow? No, but I will probably, as an encouragement to see how I feel about this author and the tone of her writing, I think what I'm gonna do is download a sample of The Idiot, her first book in this series, and see how I get along with it and decide from there. That's my plan. Now, if you all have read anything by Elif Batuman, if you know her and you're like, Shelly, where have you been living? Are you living under a rock or something? She's totally amazing and everybody's read her. Will you let me know? Or if you're like, oh, she's someone. I've read her, I have an opinion. Will you share that with me? I would really love to know. Okay, so I'm gonna move on from The Idiot. And also, by the way, Either Or, the cover is fine, but I really love the cover of The Idiot, which is also like sucking me in and making me wanna buy it because it's like this really pretty nude pink background, and then in the center is like this rock. And I don't know why, I'm compelled by it. It's like perfectly minimalist, and I'm not even a minimalist, but I'm very drawn to this cover. Okay, I'm gonna stop. We've come to an author that I've, again, read something from, and I was like, oh, I recognize that name. And then immediately I was like, and I'm not gonna read that book. And that is Chris Bohjalian. Bohjalian? Oh gosh. So I read his book, The Midwives. This was pre-booktube. I read it because Oprah had picked it as one of her book club picks, and I was so underwhelmed by this book. I really didn't like it. I thought it was so cliche. I don't know. I didn't connect with any of the characters. I thought it was, it just didn't work for me on many different levels. And so I saw that Chris Bohjalian is coming out with a new book, The Lioness, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not going to be reading that. I don't even care what it's about. It is a book by an author that at this point I just don't think I'll read ever again. Sorry, Chris Bohjalian. Sorry, not sorry. Like, I'm so glad that I've refined my taste, but I'm sorry that you've lost a reader. Let's tiptoe back to something a little more happy, and that is this book that I saw. I was like, this looks perfect, because I'm always looking for light books that I will get along with and I will find compulsively readable. Interestingly, I usually don't find lighter reads very compulsive. I find like heavy, dark reads very compulsively readable. Is that a thing? Are you like that as well? Anyhow, so I'm trying to get in touch with my lighter side, with my more humorous side, and so this book seemed like the perfect book for me. And it is Emily Henry's, Henry or Henri, I'm not sure if maybe it's French, but Emily Henry's Book Lovers. This seems like a love story all surrounded around two people who love books. And since I love books, I feel like I might be very delighted by this. And so to the question, will I read it? If I had the opportunity to read it tomorrow, would I? The answer would be yes. I would actually I would. I would read this tomorrow if I could, because it just seems light, sweet, funny, charming, and that is kind of what I need right now. I mean, I've just finished a lot of heavy books recently, and so I would be totally up for a light read. So will I read it? Likely. Okay, so the final book I'm going to be talking about is actually my favorite, and part of it is the cover. The cover is stunning, absolute perfection. Whoever worked on this cover really knew what they were doing, because I think they were selling it to consumers just like me, and that is The Colony by Audrey Magee, or Maggie? You know what? We're not going down that route. Okay, so let's talk about this cover. So it is a photograph of somebody painting a very very provocative portrait of a woman or a person. Actually, I can't tell if it's a woman. I'm gonna say it's a person. And there is like the eyes are covered with this like torn paper, but through the torn paper you are looking at the sea and clouds, and it all looks like it's just this portrait, and so even like the torn paper is part of the portrait. And so when you take a step back, you realize that it is a photograph of a portrait that is painting a torn paper that is revealing the ocean or some sort of water and clouds and an island back there. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about this cover. Oh, and all the color, there's like this, it's like this muted like turquoise, which is like my favorite color ever. And the font is in this muted turquoise, and it's, I mean, this painting, the painting itself, the design of the painting, the muted skin tone, I mean, it's, okay, I'm gonna stop. It's beauty. Like, it is gorgeous. Like, why? I should just buy this for the cover. Can I just get the cover in a print and like put it up? But then it wouldn't be meaningful. The meaning would be that I love the cover, and I would love for the meaning of the cover to be that I love the book. So that's what I'm hoping for. So I can't lose my mind over aesthetics alone. So this is what the book is about. The book says that it is in 1979, all violence erupts all over Ireland. Two outsiders travel to a small island off the western coast in search of their own answers, despite what it may cost the islanders. So I found out from this book, because I did a tiny bit of research, that Audrey Magee is an Irish writer. This is not her first book, and it's being very well reviewed. I mean, it's received high reviews, starred reviews from Booklist, Publishers Weekly, and Kirkus. And I just like books about art and the discussion of art and what it means in our lives and the way that art reflects our lives or explains or sheds light on parts of our inner life that we can't express on our own. Yeah, so books about art are kind of like my Achilles heel. And even though I really don't have space in my reading right now to read this, I would pick this up and I would see if I liked it. But part of what is drawing me is the cover. And so, oh, like I want this book. Like I want to touch this book. I want to see the cover up close and I want to know exactly what they did. Maybe I'm just in love with the cover. So I'm finding this book so compelling just because of the cover alone. I'm like reading the reviews, but every time I read a review, my heart skips a beat because I feel like I'm going to love it. But I think a lot of that is originating from the fact that I'm in love with whoever designed the cover. So if you designed this cover, if you know who designed this cover, will you get them in touch with me because they're doing everything right for, for a buyer like me, okay? One of the lines in the book is this though: "You're not understanding the light at all. It buries underneath, diving between the waves as a bird might, lighting the water from below as well as above." So I mean, the writing sounds lyrical, at least from this line. It seems lyrical. It's noted as slow moving, leisurely paced, kind of bleak. I like all that stuff. Says it's character driven. I like that stuff too. But I really think what's getting me is the cover. And so what I really ought to do is download a sample from to my Kindle and see if I actually like the language and where the story is going. That's a good way to help me not buy everything I want. Or getting it from the library, and that way I can really kind of let my heart love what I see on the cover if the cover is exactly the same as their advertising, because sometimes, you know, you all know what happens. Sometimes you buy a book and you think you're gonna get that, and then you get a different cover because publishers are playing games on you. So yeah, so I really think that this is one that I ought to probably check out from the library or download a sample of and not actually just cover buy it, because I bet you if I bought it based off this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna love it, it's gonna be amazing, ah! Like, I bet you when I actually get the book and start reading it, I won't love it as much as I thought I would. And so maybe waiting until my desire chills for a second, then getting the book or getting it from the library might be the best way to go. But nevertheless, I'm still thoroughly impressed by whoever designed this beautiful imagery that is on the cover of the colony. And the book itself does seem intriguing, but I can't just buy things based off the cover and just think that I'll love them. I really need to like cool down for a moment. I'm really having an internal struggle about whether or not I want to buy the colony. I think I'm gonna think on it. So would I read it tomorrow? The thing is that I don't know. I want to buy it so I can have the book for tomorrow. Not because I want to read it, because I want to look at it. And that's not really the best way, that's not the best reason to go into buying a book, because you like the cover. At least not for me. I want to like at least have an understanding that I might like it. So we will see. We will see how it goes between me and the colony, because right now I'm resisting buying it, even though I think it's the most beautiful book I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay, probably an exaggeration. I should probably start looking at the covers of my own books so I can appreciate what I have, but still, this was a lot of fun. So what are you reading in May? What are you thinking about reading in May? Are there new releases that are on your radar? Did I put some books on your radar right now? Is there something that you are really looking forward to? I would love to know if you also just disagree with my sort of hot takes on what's new to the market and how I'm feeling about it. Yeah. That's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I love that you spent this time with me, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye guys.